everyone, welcome back for another video. So if you've been following me, then you'll know that I've been tracking my finances for the last couple of months, and in that time I've sort of been reminiscing about my financial journey. So while I'm only just blogging about my financial journey, it actually began, I'd probably say some point around 13-14 years ago, when I finally purchased my first property, and then from then I started really thinking about my finances and taking them a bit more seriously. And looking back, even though I started to take my finances more seriously, there were some very serious mistakes that I made along the way. And I know it's very easy to spend money without really thinking, because when you're young and you're stupid and it's just sort of like your first foray into adulting, you can make some really silly mistakes. So I thought I would actually tell you some of the mistakes that I made along the way, and that's not to say that I'm not making mistakes now. I am, but they are mistakes that I'm trying to fix. So without further ado, let's get into it. Mistake number one is paying for things on credit when I really didn't need to. Now, I know that often we have no choice but to pay for things on credit because we simply don't have the means to pay for the things that we need without credit. So, but for me personally, there were instances where I did and I could have paid for those things outright had I had the common sense. So an example would be things like insurance, household insurance, whether it's emergency insurance or whether it's insurance for your car, any types of insurance. You will find that when you get a quote, they will often quote you for the full year, and then they will also quote you for the monthly amount. And so silly me, I used to pay on a monthly basis, but of course what I didn't realize at the time is that you're actually paying for the privilege of paying them on a slow pay basis. So normally the interest rate is about 18% or something, sometimes more than that, for you paying on a monthly basis. So the way I get around this is actually to plan ahead. So if I know that every year my car insurance is whatever amount it is, and in the past it used to be something like £1,400. That's when I was much younger and I just learned how to drive. So your premiums are going to be very high. And obviously I didn't have £1,400 to pay on an annual basis. But had I planned ahead and I'd been putting away money every single month so that when that bill came for the year, I'd be able to pay it off in one go. So that's how I do it. And you'll see in one of my budget videos that I have spaces on my areas where I save money in preparation for big bills. So I'll show you on one of my apps what I do, but not for this video, in another video. But essentially, if you know that you've got a bill coming up and it's a full year's bill for £1,000 or so, or £1,200, then start putting away £100 a month in preparation for when that bill is due. So number two, satellite and cable TV. I mean, these was the days before Netflix, so everybody kind of if you wanted to watch TV, then you had to pay Sky or Virgin or whatever, and the bills were really high. And I remember I barely had time to watch TV. If I think about it now, what channels did I really watch apart from maybe Sky One? And everything else I kind of watched was for free. And at the time, YouTube had just come out, so there was loads of content that was free, and yet I was still paying silly money for cable and satellite TV. So I got rid of all of that, and now I just have a Netflix subscription, I have an Amazon Prime subscription, all of that vastly cheaper than the £50-60 that I was paying for satellite and cable TV. So that's one thing I would consider. And obviously I think a lot of people are doing this now, where they're not paying for satellite TV or cable TV, but some people still are, and it's partly because when they bundle up the deals for broadband and other sort of services, they sort of bundle up the TV and before you know it, you're sort of in a contract where you're paying about £60 every single month, which to me is such a waste of time. Particularly, like I said, there's plenty of free content on YouTube, and I have a Netflix subscription and a Amazon Prime subscription, so save yourself some money with TV, particularly if you know that you're not somebody that really watches it a lot. Also bear in mind that you need to be careful with all these like different subscriptions that are available for TV, because now what ends up happening is that, you know, you'll end up with Amazon Prime, you'll end up with like Disney, you'll end up with, well, Hulu and Disney I think are the same thing now, but there are so many different like TV subscription packages that before you know it, you could end up paying about £60, you know, for, you know, multiple different streaming services. So just be mindful that, you know, you buy based on your consumption rather than just buying because, you know, the deal looks cheap, right? So $5.99, for example, looks cheap, but when you had multiple subscription services, before you know it, you're kind of like paying quite a lot for TV. So just be mindful of that. Number 3, so before we had children, we used to go to the cinema quite a lot. So we loved going to the movie theatre. And we would pay on an individual basis for like TV, sorry, not TV, we would pay like for our tickets on an individual basis, and we would also buy like popcorn and things like that. And before you know it, an evening out, you know, could set you back like, you know, £60. And we were doing that on a regular basis. So before you know it, you're probably spending something like £200, you know, $250 a month on cinema. And the great thing is that, you know, Cineworld, for example, has a cinema pass, and I think at the time it was about £20 a month. So all you had to do was actually just see like, you know, 2 movies a month to make it worthwhile. And we were seeing way more than that on a regular basis. So saving money on movie theatres. Also, I know how movie theatres make their money, which is kind of through the concessions, you know, the popcorn, you know, the other sort of bits and pieces that they sell you. I would kind of recommend that you eat before you go, and if you are going to buy, then don't buy the large popcorn, because actually you're not actually getting that much value between the small and the large. If you like do it on a weight by weight basis, it's actually cheaper for you to get the smaller one. Depending, I mean, this was back in the day, so I don't know what it is now, but I remember at the time by kg, it was actually cheaper for you to buy the small one, or 2 small ones versus a very large one. So just bear that in mind, that, you know, just be mindful of how you consume when you go to the movie theatre, and also try and get a movie pass rather than kind of just doing it on a, you know, one-on-one basis and kind of wasting money that way. Number 4, the most important for me when I think back now, is not investing my money. So I used to save, and you know, I've talked about saving before, but I never really saved with intention. So I saved for, well, let's put it this way, I saved for rainy days. So things like, you know, trying to have 6 months pay, or 6 months living expenses, was something that I did on a regular basis. But beyond that, I never was really quite intentional with how I saved. So I would find that I would save like lots and lots of money, and I would just have like, you know, thousands. Like, you know, at one point I had like nearly 30,000 in my current account. For what reason, I don't know. I did move it into premium bonds, but that was just such a silly thing to do. When I could have been investing that money. And now when I think about it, you know, that was money that, you know, what was the compound interest on that type of money now that I could have, you know, had, that I've missed out on by being just really, really cautious with money. And now I'm kind of like, you know, I've still got, you know, maybe 25 years until, you know, my retirement date. I really just want to maximize my savings and maximize what I can get from stock market return. You know, probably have a couple of thousand or something like that to cover emergencies. But for the most part, almost all my money is invested somewhere in between very safe funds, so, you know, through Vanguard, for example, or, you know, sort of more the high risk, you know, equities, mostly US equities, where I use eToro. But being very intentional with your savings is one of the things that I regret not doing, and definitely failing to invest my money is, you know, I look back and I'm just like, I'm such an idiot. Having said that, I always did pay into a pension. And I will say that I am eternally grateful to my dad, because when I was younger and I just left university, he kept on banging on about the importance of pensions. And I was just like, what is wrong with this man? You know, I'm only 21, why would I care about a pension? But anyway, because I was living at home, he used to force me to invest in the pension. And he was like, you're getting employer match. Not that I really understood what that was at the time. You know, it's such a waste for you not to invest in your pension. So he used to actually check my payslip to make sure that I was paying into a pension. And at the time, you know, between student loans, which was, I think I was paying £150 a month, and also the pension, which was another £150 a month, you know, £300 was kind of like gone out of my very meager salary at the time, which I think was like, you know, in the 20s, like 22 maybe, something like that. But I'm eternally grateful that he instilled that in me. Now, unfortunately, silly me, when I did move out and you know, got my own place, because I was sort of concentrating on trying to pay off my mortgage, I actually stopped paying into a pension, and I stopped paying in for about 6 years. And then when I started paying back in, I was paying the minimum, which was another extremely stupid thing for me to do. And it was only in the last, I would say, let's see, so from like about 2016, did I really start putting money back into my pension in a more meaningful and more serious way, to the point where now I put away 26% of my salary. You know, between my contribution and my employer match, so they only put in 6%, so I put in 20% and my employer puts in 6%, so I'm kind of getting 26%, you know, for my pension is what I put in. So, you know, I've kind of learned my lesson, but it's really stupid that it took me that long to understand the importance of pensions and retiring, because, you know, now with a child and childcare fees, you know, I just think that money I had spare, you know, that £1,400 that I spend every month on, you know, childcare fees, I had spare that I could have been putting into my pension, and I didn't, and that was a really stupid mistake. So be mindful of kind of like, just make sure that you are being intentional with your money and thinking very clearly about what you want from the long-term goals with your money. Number 5. So I am very cheap, well, for some things, but you know, for the most part, I am relatively cheap. I mean, like I said, I don't really like, I've said before that I don't really have expensive tastes. And things like face creams was something that I just like, I had a visceral rejection of the idea of spending like, you know, £30 for, you know, a pot of face cream. So I would actually look at the ingredients on the back of the face cream, my favorite face cream, and I would go and buy the ingredients on an individual basis. Now, it does sometimes work out cheaper, and I'm not a chemist by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, some of the ingredients that are in your favorite cosmetics, you could get way cheaper and then like create your own concoction. So while this is not like a universal thing, it was just one of those things that I used to waste money on, you know, but now I'm very sort of like conscious of making sure that I, you know, kind of, you know, buy the ingredients that will help me with not only my skincare but my hair care as well. So those are things that I have, you know, managed to save money on by just being a little bit more careful. Number 6 is actually not on the list, but it's something that I just remembered is, and the reason I just remembered it is because Ross and I have this running joke where when I go shopping, I check the price of the item per kg. So one thing you may not be aware of is that supermarkets are very crafty at getting your money, particularly with like things like, you know, buy one get one free, or like, you know, half price on this, etc. But what you don't realize is sometimes when they say half price on something, on a, you know, package, let's say if it's like a tin of beans, half price on a tin of beans, but actually you could buy like 4, and per kg it's actually cheaper for you to buy, you know, 4 cans than it is for you to buy the one that is half price sometimes. Other times, you know, they might do buy one get one free, and you know, you'll find that yes, it's, you know, the package is actually smaller, so you're getting buy one get one free, but actually the amount you're getting per volume is actually much lower. So I always check those things, and it's like a running joke between me and Ross that, you know, I'm really tight, but I will not be caught out by supermarkets by trying to, you know, entice me with offers and actually making me pay more per volume for an item that I just wouldn't necessarily pay. So what are the mistakes that you guys have made, if you have made any, or some of the tips and advice that you would give to me or to other people on how to manage your finances better? Drop them in the comment box, and I'd be interested to get your views. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.